Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome back to the weekly Armchair Sports Talk. It's just the two of us at the minute. A United fan that's obviously a little bit underwhelmed. And of course, Will, thanks for joining me, brother. I can hear, obviously, you're quite sort of overwhelmed. I mean, what a win for you guys just then.
Jesus, it's hard to describe the amount of emotions just to actually go out and finally get that win. Mm-hmm. It was so important. Like, a draw would have felt like a loss.
Yeah.
Just
I'm
lucky. I'm so happy.
I'm pleased. Yeah. Do you know what? I was talking sort of backstage earlier. Arsenal were absolutely relentless in the second half. United were ready to sit back, play that sort of mid-block and allow you to come at us. But that, as we've seen on numerous occasions, not necessarily from United, but from a football standpoint, it burnt us in the end, and that's exactly what happened today. It's a massive, massive win for Arsenal. Listen, I've got a lot of respect for Arsenal. I have done for a long time. I said this to you before. Will, I've said this to a few of the boys as well, and they deserved it today. And I'd much rather see them get the title after 22 years, whatever it is. Not that long, actually, was it? 17, 19. Thank you. And over the other side of Manchester. Stu, thanks for joining us, buddy. Tell me how you're feeling after that result.
It's about right. I thought we'd lose 2-1 actually. So 3-2. It was tight. It was fucking tight. Wan-Bissaka unfortunately had his back to was trying to occupy Zinchenko. Hence the it was just very, very marginal. I know they drew the lines on that, but I thought it was a bit tight, that one, to be fair. But it is what it is. You get what you get. I don't think we played the right game today. To be honest, I thought we were a little bit. I don't know. We played into Arsenal's hands more than what we should have done, and that was a big surprise for me. I thought we could have controlled the game better.
Yeah.
But we just, the two wingers, Saka in particular, was outstanding today.
Yeah, he was phenomenal today. I just wanted to come in on what you said just very quickly, Stu. We did play into their hands. I feel like today, when it's kind of a battle of midfield, and in all honesty, Arsenal win their games through their midfield. Their midfield three have been in sensational form this season. And I felt like we allowed them to play in that midfield park. If we had maybe gotten up a little bit more and attack as the best form of defence, that kind of thing. If we'd have gone at them, played a higher line, we may have been a little bit more.
We allowed them to dictate tempo, but when you got somebody like Odegaard, he's quite cute anyway. You're going to allow players to dictate tempo. The isolation of as I said, with the fullbacks was the biggest thing. The first goal, though, I was really surprised to see Wan-Bissaka on the far stick. I didn't quite understand that. He's a right back. What was he doing? In Luke Shaw's position. Luke Shaw didn't have a great game today. I think when you're playing against somebody like Saka, you've got to bully him. You've got to get at him. You've got to absolutely completely disrupt him. And for whatever reason, Luke Shaw didn't do that. Now, obviously, he knows the pace and the power and the kind of skill set that Saka has. But you've got to counteract it. You've got to counter against it. You've got to counter punch. If you got the boxing last night, Eubank had a brilliant third round. Smith knew that if you didn't come out and stop him in the fourth, fifth, or sixth, the game was over. And this is the problem. This is what Arsenal knew. Arsenal knew that they had to come and try and stop us playing. It's a tough one. It's a bit of a tough one to swallow, actually.
It is, especially with the goal so late on as well. Yeah. We defended relatively well all game, and to kind of, concede so late on, it's always difficult, isn't it? We could have potentially got a point gained, I think. Anyway, I just want to come to a few comments. Marcus, great to have you with us, buddy. I'm going to come to you in a second. John Commode in the comments, nice to see you again, buddy. It was a good game. Arsenal deserved it. United have made progress, but Arsenal are ahead of us at present with their progress. Massive, amazing how things changed in a couple of years, really, isn't it? If I'm honest, I would say that Arsenal a couple of years ago were behind United, and then of course everything happened, and then Ralph came in, and etc. etc. So decisions play Eriksen and McTominay in midfield, I was fearing, but there we go.
is he going to play? I mean, he got no one else to play. Yeah. You play Fred maybe, but then who else? So either way, you're going to have problems in the middle of the park.
Yeah, absolutely right. Helly in the comments, great to see this as well. Disappointed, but not going to get overly depressed. We've made huge progress. Absolutely right. I keep reminding myself how we started this season. Still 19 matches left. Yeah, that's mad, isn't it? There's still 19 games to go. Arsenal sitting at 50 points. You know, we're 39, is it? Absolutely mad. And Keane, I think this is as well. Arsenal will win the league. That's the best anyone's given them at the Emirates, and that's absolutely right. I think it was a very good game to watch. You know, I was so nervous beforehand. Throughout the game, I was sitting there like, oh, fucking hell, you know, where's this going to go? And a lot of squeaky bum time. But it is what it is, and they did thoroughly deserve it. Marcus, great to have you on, my man. I hope you're well. Good to catch up with you over the last couple of days, obviously, as well. How you doing and how you feeling?
Oh man, I'm confused at the moment because on the one hand, there's a sense of pride in the fact that we took the best team in the league the distance again, and we almost caused the second blemish on what has otherwise been a magnificent season. But on the other hand, there's the cynic in me that thinks, oh, we were so close, and why could we not just hold on for those last few minutes? I think it's one thing going into a game and expecting to lose. It's another thing going into a game expecting to lose, being in a position to potentially get a draw or win it, and then still losing anyways, because it's the hope that kills you, you know. And I think that's it for me today. And you know, Stu's comments about Luke Shaw was spot on. I think I have no clue why he was not closing down Saka. I think he was just trying to be smart and intelligent and not trying to do anything silly and give away a penalty. And he was probably just trying to play the match and not the occasion, which I respect. But at the same time, you've got to close down a player like Saka. Equally, I thought Christian Eriksen gave Saka way too much space on more than just the one occasion, not just the wonder goal. He got into that position a few times and got a shot off a few times because Eriksen was not quick to close him down. So I think we're starting to see a bit of a reality check for Manchester United fans, and we're starting to see we're seeing the progress, but we're also seeing where the holes are in this team and how far we are from a team like Arsenal. And I think the question is now, where does Erik ten Hag go from here? Because in that second half, I mean, what do you do? The bench is threadbare. There's not really much you can do to impact the game. So yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah, absolutely right, and summed up absolutely perfectly there, Marcus. Jarvis in the comments here, Arsenal were better, but we gave it a good go despite our weaknesses. We obviously have a long way to go. Let's say United and support our guys. Top four and deep cup run-ins is the objective. Absolutely right. We're in a... It's a strange season, isn't it? You know, everyone before it started, you know, a lot of my rival friends at least would have said outside the top four, probably going to struggle, blah, blah, blah. And here we are in a lot better position what we expected. And now, as I said to you last week, Stu, we're in positions, and Marcus, we're in positions where we're gutted to drop points. And we didn't deserve it today, but you've got to remember these things that obviously... Go on.
I mean, when you look at the game overall, that we didn't deserve to win the game. But I've always said this: nobody deserves to win a game of football anyway. You only win a game of football by scoring more goals than the opposition, and that can be absolutely done by anywhere. It could be off your arse, elbow, or whatever. It's an irrelevance. But what I like about Arsenal, they're 2 years in the making under Arteta. Well, I think something like that.
2.5, isn't it? 3 now.
2.5,
is it the third? You're on mute, buddy.
So, and he's got when you look at what Arteta's been playing over recent matches, he's got quality footballers like Smith Rowe on the bench. He's a very, very good footballer.
He was always number one starter for a long time, isn't he? And so they've really grown in strength and depth, haven't they?
But what they've got this anticipation now. You've got a much matured Xhaka, a very, very much matured Xhaka. You've got a wonderful talent in Ødegaard. You've got Saka. You've got Nketiah. Many Arsenal fans probably thought where the goal's going to come from. He's been another revelation. And you got Martinelli. Yeah, you got Martinelli. So when you look at those players, that little group of players who are young, dynamic, they're fast, they're skillful, they're aggressive, they put you under pressure. You're always going to have problems. And I would imagine Guardiola's having nightmares about facing Arsenal right now, because they've got to play him, isn't it, twice in something like 3 weeks.
This coming Friday. This coming Friday, we play him in the FA Cup as the first game.
Coming Friday, is it? Right.
Yep.
it's going to be very, very difficult, I see, for anyone to topple Arsenal. From our own point of view, we knew. Look, I'm going to go out on a limb here. We wouldn't have won that game with Casemiro in the side today. That's the thing. You've got to be realistic, and we wouldn't have won with Casemiro in. It might have made us a little bit more tighter, a bit more kind of calmer in possession. It might have allowed Eriksen that space, a bit more space, and a bit more closing down time, as Marcus said, over against Saka. But ultimately, Arsenal gave us a lesson at, in parts on how to play football.
Can I also just say, I was old enough to see Arsenal do what they did with the Invincibles, but I honestly believe that this is one of the most dynamic Arsenal teams I've seen in a while. The reason why I say that is because they're not one-dimensional. They've got threats in every area of the pitch. When Arsenal are attacking you, it's not just about their front three. It's not just about their midfield. You've got to deal with Zinchenko. You've got to deal with Ben White as well. And both their centre-backs are capable of being ball-playing defenders who can occasionally play a line-breaking pass. So, I mean, to stay in the game against a team like that for as long as we did, I mean, it's a huge sign of progress, especially considering we've already beat them this season. So, I mean, man, what a team. And it's just a shame we couldn't get the result we wanted.
Yeah, absolutely right. There was a lot of talk beforehand. I'll come to some of the comments in a minute, but a lot of talk beforehand. Obviously, Casemiro being unavailable today. William, do you? It's different. Obviously, hindsight's one thing. Just trying to brainstorm a little bit here, but do you think that Casemiro was really evident today that we were missing him from a defensive perspective? Do you think he could have maybe controlled it a little bit more?
Now, I think if you look at it in the first half, I don't think there definitely would have been no difference. I think your midfield was nearly coming out on top in the first half, and I was getting irritated how you're winning all the second balls and how we weren't able to pick it up and pin you back a little bit more. Now, obviously, in the second half, you'd argue maybe it's the mentality of some of the players that they're just a little bit more nervous and they keep on sitting back. That's maybe where you missed him a little bit. But I'm a bit like Stu. I don't think it would have changed much difference because I don't think the players around him would have necessarily gotten up the pitch more, and you would have gotten more chances in the second half either. I think we kind of turned it on a lot more in the second half, and we're able to. I don't think it's what Casemiro wouldn't have changed it necessarily. I don't think, although he is a quality player, obviously.
Yeah, I've said this so often, and Stu and I, we touched upon this midweek on the reaction, didn't we?
Yeah.
Casemiro is a wonderful player. There's no doubt about that, and he's made us tick. He's defensively wonderful. Sorry, but ultimately, we've got the other players in the team. I know obviously the jury's out on McTominay, Fred, that kind of thing, but I wasn't, a lot of people were writing us off saying, 2 or 3-0, and I never felt that was ever going to be the case. Obviously, that's worked out now for me. That works quite well, but, I really feel that we've got a better squad. We certainly need to improve it. Casemiro is a massive, massive cog. There's no doubt about that. But we considering today, I think a lot of people need to remember that. The same people that say, oh, no, United have got absolutely no chance are the same people that need to say, actually, United did very well today because they were missing a massive player. Go on, Stu.
We did do very well. There was a couple of occasions, and I know Marcus will pick on this. I know he will, because I know his attention to detail, where Bruno disrupted our own play and our own fluidity, and it was quite strange to see. He almost let the occasion get to him, which you can't do. Look, I don't agree with captains on a football team. You know this. I never paid attention to my skipper one little bit. I just carried on with my own game. When you do have a skipper, and there are plenty of people who think a skipper is important in a football team, and you are looking to this guy, you can't be seeing petulance. You can't be seeing rash challenges at the first 10 minutes. Wasn't he called out 3 times? Something along those lines. Yeah. You can't have that. Yeah. What I did think, and I said this on a show. Were you on the show, Marcus? I think you might have been. Where I thought he'd go with Fred as a man marker against Odegaard.
It was this week. I said McTominay.
That's it. The way that he played Kevin De Bruyne, I would have thought Fred could have done a job on Odegaard. Different type of player. I get it. He's more controlled footballer, but. We'll never know. We'll never know, obviously, what will happen. But when you look at the way that Partey plays. It's the first time I've really looked at Partey and looked at what he does for Arsenal. And I can see the kind of comparisons between Casemiro and Partey in the way that they play and what they add. What Partey does, and I've never noticed this before, he allows Ødegaard to play. He allows Xhaka to play a more calmer game. And he allows Nketiah, he allows everybody in and around him to play. Gabriel surprised me again, much more calmer defender than what I saw 18 months ago. Ramsdale, big player for you. That one save off of Rashford. Who knows where the game
great
goes?
save.
Yeah,
Great save.
Tommy Aspinall, when he come on, he had a couple of problems, but once he got himself settled, you've got a good squad of players. The addition of Trossard is going to be. I think he's going to carry you. I think he's going to carry you this year.
Great signing, actually, Trossard. Let me just say, for 27 million, I really rated him at Brighton. Very, very good player, very creative, very technically astute. A really good signing by Arsenal. They've been very, very clever in the market, haven't they? In the last couple of seasons. Right, just to catch up on a few things, I'm going to come to a few comments. I've just seen a tweet here, actually, and I don't know whether even you want to sort of wade in on this, and this is no discredit to Arsenal or anything like that. But he said, we're 6 months into the project and they are 3 years into theirs. I thought we'd get slapped 3-0 today. We went toe-to-toe with them and unfortunately fell short in the final minutes. Just not enough quality off the bench. Had no Casemiro and they had a full week to prepare. Do you agree with all those things, Marcus? Anything you want to say about that?
I mean, for me, listen, a lot of people will say Casemiro wouldn't have made much of a difference today. I don't know. I don't know, because I look at the way we defended in that second half, how much space we gave them, and I think to myself, maybe someone like Casemiro makes a difference. Now, he doesn't stop the shot from Saka because Eriksen would have been defending that anyways, but maybe he marshals them. Maybe he gets everyone in the right position. Maybe he's that leader that we need in the back. So I don't really know. So, yeah. That's my mom. So I don't really know what I don't really know if Casemiro would have directly stopped any of the goals from Arsenal, but I do think he would have helped us keep our composure towards the end a little bit more. But either way, that's by the by. Look, for me, the fact that we went 1-0 up as early as we did, the fact that they went 2-1 up and we responded immediately was amazing, right? Like, that was brilliant. And the fact that, again, we stayed in that game for so long, for me, is a big enough positive for me to ignore the fact that Casemiro wasn't there today. And I think the focus today should really be on where do we move now as a team, having seen the progress that we've made, what is the next step in this rebuild? Because again, we are only 6 months in. So imagine where we could be 18 months from now. It's just
my take from it. That's actually, Marcus, that's my take from it. If you had somebody like a Basuma or somebody like that within our squad, you take out a McTominay. Well, you had a Camavinga, someone like that. It's almost an extra piece of what was a gaping jigsaw. We had 4 or 5 gaping holes in this jigsaw puzzle. What I thought about the game was, it was a brilliant game of football from start to finish. It was a brilliant game of football. It's been the best game this season for me. We're the third best team in the Premier League by far. Now, people might think, well, and I will always tell you. You've got to be the first, number one.
I was literally just having this conversation a moment ago in the group chat.
I will always say you've got to be number one. You know all this, but where we are now, in the 6 months that Ten Hag's taken over, you can't help but be impressed at all. You just can't help but be impressed with the way that he's galvanised the squad, the way that the players are playing for him, the way that we've developed under these 6 months. But I will go back to it. As good as the big bold machine is, don't underestimate the influence Steve McLaren's having. It's no coincidence whatsoever that since McLaren's come back, we are looking at a completely different outfit. If Ten Hag is allowing McLaren to coach, although coaching, guiding, whichever way word you want to use, there's your difference. He makes a big difference. So,
absolutely spot on. No, you're all right. So Jarvis made some points. I'm going to come to you quickly, William, and then we're going to do something. As we've got a rival fan on today, we're going to do something a little bit more fun with ratings, okay? And at least we'll all come out of the other side of this and feel a little bit better from a United perspective. Obviously, we'll even better, even though they've just got the 3 points. So he said here, there's so many things we can point out today. Always great comments, Jarvis, by the way. And those of you on Twitter, there's loads here. Please come over to youtube.com/weekly sports talk. Oh my God. Weekly armchair sports talk. Fuck's sake, bro. De Gea's distribution. I wanted to come to you about this quickly. Will, obviously, in comparison to Ramsdale today, it was a very. He's got better this season. There's no dispute about that. But today, I felt that distribution was very poor, and it possibly led to, particularly the first goal by Nketiah. It was poor, and there was a real contrast between Ramsdale. Really impressed with today. I think this is probably the first time, other than the other game, where I've watched Arsenal and watched how they play, and he's brilliant at the back. He's a great shot stopper and really good at distribution. But what's your take on that one?
Yeah, when I was watching it, it was like whenever it was time for De Gea to distribute, it was like I felt a bit happier because I felt like that's where we were trying to get a little bit more joy. It confused me why you were playing like that, passing it from Martinez to De Gea and then playing out. I know it's how Ten Hag will like to play in the future. And I do understand the advantages it has in terms of dragging us out of position, and if you can play through us, you're in with a one-on-one situation. But it just feels like De Gea isn't the goalkeeper that is going to do that for you completely successfully. He may get one or two times where it works out for him, but it's not his strong suit. And I feel like you have to play to your strengths in a game like this at times. And it just doesn't work. And you will need a new goalkeeper, in my opinion, to get to the next level, even though he is a world-class shot stopper. As you saw from the Nketiah chance when at the end, the one that he didn't score when it was saved, it was just like amazing.
Yeah, unbelievable. I don't know how he managed to get down so quickly, that close, but he does amaze us, obviously, with lots of a wonderful shot stopping. That's never been in doubt. Stu and I have had this conversation so many times just for your kind of visibility, Will, really. But there are definitely some frailties. He's got better this season, but I really felt that was on show. I'm just going to come to one more comment, and then we're going to do team ratings, and I'll explain how we're going to do that in a moment. All right. We agreed, Helly's comments here, we agreed at the beginning of the season that Erik ten Hag needed time to implement his philosophy and build the squad. We didn't even discuss top four. We performed beyond expectations at this point, in my opinion. Absolutely right. Right. What we're going to do, I'm going to start with Marcus. We're going to rate both squads, starting 11. We may include one or two players that have come on. And Marcus, I'm going to give you Ramsdale and David De Gea.
Ooh, spicy. Because I watch Arsenal a lot this season. Probably the only team I've watched more than any other team outside of Manchester United is Arsenal. And I think today, Ramsdale for me wasn't as impressive as he's been all season long. So for me, I would give Ramsdale a 6. I would give De Gea a 5 because his distribution brought him down quite a lot. Yes, he made some great saves, but again, there was a moment in the game where he passed it and he just assumed Luke Shaw was going to be out wide, and he wasn't, and went out for a throw-in. And I was like, dude,
I do remember that.
Look up. You had time to look up and actually check that. So for me, De Gea gets a 5, and yeah, that's how I'd go.
Someone backstage in the group chat, I always refer to this, so you have to. I need to get everybody, including the viewers, in there so they can understand exactly what I mean every time. But someone was saying, Spurs fan, obviously Arsenal beat them the other week, and he said that Ramsdale was absolutely on fire that day for the chances that Harry Kane had, whereas today he wasn't as on form, and I would agree with that. I think that your comments and ratings there are absolutely spot on. Just going to come to a few things that have been said after the match, and then we'll move on to right back positions. So Luke Shaw has said, we are all gutted in the change room to concede so late on is a reality check. In the second half, we deserved that. We were a bit passive and let them control the game completely. We've all alluded to this. We were fighting to the last second, but we have to concentrate on the full game, and one lapse in concentration could cost you a goal. It goes on to say a few more things. Obviously, Martinez scored today, which I was very, very happy about. First goal for Manchester United and a lovely header, actually. You know, it took a lot of effort to get that power on it and looped over, and it was a good finish in the end. I just saw a picture of him, that's why I brought him up. But anyway, moving on to the right back position, and Will, I'm going to give this to you. So, of course, Ben White and Aaron Wan-Bissaka.
Right. Honestly, I'd give Ben White like a 4. I thought it was very,
right, okay.
very, very poor today. He didn't look up for it.
Got
As
a
soon as
card early
United
on.
scored, his head went and he got a card straight away.
Yeah.
He just was not on it. Like I was saying in the first half, like he could get subbed off around the 55th minute. Next thing you know, he was gone at half time. You don't like, he did not have a good game. It's one of his worst games I've seen for Arsenal. And arguably, I'd have to say Wan-Bissaka is probably a 4 as well, if not lower, probably about a 4 as well. Like, he did well enough defending Martinelli, but you look, the first goal's his mistake.
Yeah,
you know, as
him
well,
or
probably
Luke Shaw, a bit questionable, but yeah, he's certainly.
Yeah, I mean, he literally lets Eddie run right in front of him, and doesn't even put any weight on him or anything.
Yeah,
so,
I agree with absolutely everything you said, really. And you know what? Stu will tell you this. As soon as you start that game and you cross that white line, you make yourself a nuisance. And I really thought in the first few minutes where Arsenal actually came out well, they did it in the game at Old Trafford, and Ben White got his card, I thought, right, we need to focus on him. And I appreciate they made the substitution, whatever else, but I really felt that was, you know, make yourself a presence, go for it. Rashford, and, you know, he was all over him. And I just wish that he'd maybe done a bit more with a few things that he did in the first half at least, and obviously that didn't work out in the end. Absolutely spot on. So we're going to move on to Raphael Varane and Saliba. Stu.
6, I think, for both. I don't think both of them covered themselves in glory. I think they were just mediocre.
They did their job. They did their job.
They were just mediocre today, so I'll just give them both a 6.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Short and sweet. Never messed around, Stu. Right, moving on then. Gabriel and I'm trying to remember which ones I said and which ones not with 2 teams. I can assure you it's a nightmare.
Martinez.
Gabriel Martinez, thank you very much. Marcus.
The leecher, the butcher, 8 out of 10. He's got to be our man of the match if we were to award one.
Yeah.
He was brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant. I wasn't paying too much attention to Gabriel, to be honest with you, because it's kind of hard to focus on both teams and focus on all 22 players on the pitch. So I don't know. I'm going to go with the safe one and say 6. I'm just being honest. I can't recall whether or not Gabriel did anything significantly, you know, that impacted the game.
He almost stopped Martinez's goal. That's what I remember. Almost.
He covered around for that Rashford time
enough, and then just sort of pushed it into the back of net, essentially, wasn't it? Good to see Vicky in the comments. Leeds your first goal for United when it was needed. Yeah, it's been a long time coming. I absolutely love that man.
I can't underestimate how difficult that header was.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how difficult that header was because he knew he had to loop it up.
Imagine. If everyone can imagine being so low on the ground, having to get that lift off under that pressure, do you know what I mean? And actually get something on it. You got some lift on it in order to get it exactly where you want. It's brilliant.
Not only that, Gabriel's, what's Gabriel? 6'2", 6'3"?
Yeah, he's tall. Yeah.
You know, it's unbelievable header. Unbelievable header.
Yeah, absolutely right. Marcus, were you next?
I was just going to say on Martinez.
Yeah, go on, bro.
Being short probably actually helped him for that header because I thought it was at an awkward height. So I think if it was someone a lot taller, they would have messed it up personally. But anyways,
yeah, quite possibly. Right, moving on to Zinchenko and Luke. And is that you, Marcus, or you, Will?
That's Will. That's Will.
Yeah, go for it, Will.
I'm gonna give Zinchenko a 9. Honestly, he's brilliant. Like joined man the match with Saka.
He was
for
great.
Me, he just ran the show from end to end. Whenever he got the ball, just one touch into dangerous areas the whole time. His passing is as good as Odegaard's, which is the biggest compliment you can give coming from a left back. Like, I just love the man. There's
was also
nothing much more I can say. I absolutely adore him. What he brings to this side, the quality, just bringing in something different, getting more bodies in midfield, just wonder. I just
he was also
like,
he was also driving with the ball a lot.
yeah,
it was.
and he was clinical for our third goal. Literally, without him, you wouldn't score that third goal. And then Luke Shaw's a tough one. Like he did back off to a bit too much. Like I'd say probably about a 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Like it's really hard to stop Saka. I know.
Someone said today, I mean, Saka, he's a phenomenal player, had a wonderful season. Took him a little while to get going, of course. But someone said today that Luke looked a little bit scared of Saka. I think he was scared of bringing him down.
He tried, because I mean, he fouled. Why Arteta got booked is because he fouled him like 4 times before that, and then obviously he had to watch out because he's already fouled him 4 times. The next one's going to be a booking. Like it didn't matter what he was doing; there was no way for him to get the better of him, and it was just one of them games for him.
Yeah, absolutely right. Good stuff so far. As I said, loads of you on Twitter. As I said, we can't read out your comments, so we want you to come over to YouTube and get your conversation in here so we can read it, pull it up on screen and discuss. And obviously, as usual, thanks to everybody in the comments. Really good conversations going on. So moving on to Partey and McTominay, Stu.
Partey gets an 8, McTominay gets a 5.
Yeah. Any elaboration on that, or is it?
No. I think when you look at the overall structure of the game, the way that McTominay plays, he was, yeah. Look, the problem with McTominay is he doesn't know what he is. This is his issue. He hasn't identified himself as a footballer yet. And when you can't learn a position from one of the very best in the game, you've got to question, what you're doing at the elite level in club football. And so from me, you could, plus, by the way, he was instrumental in ruining 4 or 5 attacks through just holding the play and not continuing with the progression. When you look at what Partey did, I think he made 1 or 2 last-ditch tackles. He was very calm on possession. He allows the 2 centre-halves and, more importantly, the 2 full-backs to push on. And that's what really hurt us, because it wasn't only just Martinelli and Zinchenko together. It was Ben White to an extent and Saka. So, when you're on because Anthony didn't really push back so much, nor did Rashford today. So it's a big problem. So, yeah, Partey for me was an 8, easy. It was quite an easy one, that one, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely right. That's why I gave it to you, Stu. I knew you'd be to the point. No messing about. Marcus, Xhaka, and Eriksen.
Oh, you know what? Xhaka was brilliant. He was a thorn in the side of Manchester United, as he's been the thorn in the side of many teams this season. I will give him an 8 out of 10 because I just thought, you know what? He got himself into really good positions. He took a couple of good shots and he was just all over the place. He embodies everything that you want to see in a midfielder in terms of hard work, in terms of tenacity. And, the point that Stu made earlier about how Thomas Partey has allowed Odegaard and Xhaka to play football, it couldn't be much more true with Xhaka. Like, Xhaka is the embodiment of what Partey allows you to do in a team, because he's finally getting to play in his natural position. We haven't seen Xhaka play in his natural position in years for Arsenal, and this season he's just been brilliant. So 8 out of 10. Eriksen, I prefer not to speak. I think just defensively, he let us down tonight. He really did. And I love Eriksen. I think he's a fantastic player, but there's 2 issues I have with him. One, defensively, he really lets us down because he just doesn't have, I don't know if he doesn't have the legs or he doesn't have the work rate or both, but also just the IQ to position himself in the right positions and make things more difficult for the attacker. It's just not there. And the second thing is, you can tell that he's so deflated in the second half. And our lack of squad depth is going to cost us, because Erik ten Hag is in a position where he can't really take Eriksen off because he needs that ball progressing ability. But then he's kind of forced to take him off and bring Fred on. And when you've got Fred and McTominay on, then all your attack completely fades, which it did in the second half.
We know Manchester United too well, don't we?
Yeah, Manchester United.
3 years ago, 2 years ago, McFred, we know all too well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So for me, I'm going to give Eriksen a 5.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. Yeah, absolutely right. moving on to, I was going to say something about football heritage after your comment about prefer not to speak. That was brilliant. Anyway, Odegaard and Bruno. Will.
Right. I'll start with Bruno was really poor for me. Like really, really poor, especially in that first half when after our 3 minutes of flurry where United started to get a hold on the ball, he cost United time after time after time, whether it was being too sloppy on the ball and getting intercepted by the other guy, I'm going to mark Odegaard, or just being offside or committing a foul. It just wasn't working for him today. Now, there was sometimes that he got into some good positions, like I see from the Marcus Rashford goal. He was in a really nice position to be laid off, but Marcus then obviously with that stunning finish. Honestly, I can't give him more than a 5. Like, I just don't think he had a good game at all for what was needed for United in order to get up the pitch. He needed to do an awful lot more. Odegaard, he done well. In the first half, he definitely started to drive us on a little bit more. Like, it was definitely needed. It wasn't one of his best games, but yet he's going to, he'll get an assist for that Nketiah goal at the very end. Like, I'd give him about a 6 or a 7. I think 7 is fair. Like, he wasn't brilliant, but he was very solid all around.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very fair assessment. I have to say, Odegaard is a wonderful player. I think he's been the best midfielder of the season. Obviously, we know all about him. United were linked with him before he moved to Real Madrid. A lot younger at that point, a lot less mature, but he's come to Arsenal and really made that position his own and has been phenomenal. So I think it was a no contest there really today. On another day, Bruno would very much be in competition for sure. Very different players ever so slightly, but yeah, he was good today, particularly in the second half. He really made our midfield work, and very, very good. Moving back to some comments, actually, Ten Hag has done this sort of post-match interview, and he said it was a great game, a lot of tempo, and the audience is the big winner. 2 top teams, but of course we're disappointed when you lose this game at this stage. In this late stage, all the goals we conceded today are mistakes. It can't happen. I want to win. It is not good enough. We want to be the number one, but to make mistakes is not good enough. That is clear, and what I have told them. He then goes on to say they are very good on the ball, but we are good at a good defending team. There were not a lot of open chances. We made mistakes that we cannot make, and obviously saying that we alluded to a couple of goals, which probably is right. Probably isn't wrong at least. Anyway, moving on to the next couple of players. Over to you, Stu, of course. And we will do Martinelli and Antony. And what I will say about Antony, first of all, in the first half, he looked very good. In the second half, he completely fell by the wayside, didn't he? But anyway, Stu, sorry.
Yeah, Antony gets a 6 for me because although his end product, his end result isn't where it needs to be at the minute, his work rate is pretty good, and he has got the ability to really push people back. Martinelli probably gets, he might just shade it 6.5. He wasn't Arsenal's best performer today. But then when you're up against Wan-Bissaka, it's almost impossible. I mean, Wan-Bissaka is just quality in his tackling. So I don't think Martinelli had his best game. So it's a 6 and 6.5 for me.
Absolutely fair. Moving on then to, I'm going to do the number 9. So Nketiah, obviously 2 goals today. He looked brilliant. And Weghorst, which we said this during the week, a lot of people don't really watch his off the ball.
He had a better game than people.
Even against Palace, a lot of people were saying, is he fit in? Is he doing this? Is he doing that? But he actually wasn't a bad player. He's one of our better players against Palace. He pulled out a lot of people out of position, and he did that today even better, in my opinion, anyway. So yeah, Marcus, Weghorst and Nketiah, please.
I'll start with Weghorst. I thought today I pretty much the same against Crystal Palace. I think I'll give him a 6.5 because I thought off the ball again he was good. Okay, he was decent, but it's just on the ball. I feel like when you have a player like Weghorst and he is the funnel for everything in your attack, you kind of slow the momentum in the game down because obviously he's not the quickest of players. And I think that really hurt us today because I think trying to hit Arsenal on the counter was our best bet of getting a result. And so it's kind of counterproductive having someone like him. But again, it's not his fault, and it's not 10x fault either because we don't really have that much
Quickly on
options.
that, Marcus, because I tend to agree with you. But what Weghorst is going to want is, and he's not going to get it from Rashford, and he won't get it from Anthony. He needs Anthony to get the ball out, 2 touches, whip that cross in. That's where Weghorst is great because he can attack. We're not getting that. You're not going to get that off of Rashford, and you're not getting it from Anthony, and that's why he looks out of place.
No, that's spot on. And that's another thing. We've seen this with many strikers at Manchester United. It's basically the graveyard shift, isn't it, up front? You don't really get that many chances. Absolutely. And I don't think Weghorst had any touches in the opposition box. And if he did, they definitely weren't shots. So that's worrying, but that's not his fault. So I'll give him a 6.5. As for Nketiah, like he's probably been one of the most surprising performers this season in the Premier League because I tell you what, I think even Arsenal fans are shocked by how good Nketiah is. His movement for the first goal was magnificent. Like the way, yes, you can say Wan-Bissaka wasn't that good on the back post. You can point fingers at United defenders ball watching, but he comes virtually from out of nowhere and gets in a really good position to put that in the back of the net and leaves De Gea absolutely dumbfounded. And he's done this a few times this season for Arsenal. You know, the rhetoric when Jesus got injured, it was like, oh, Arsenal's season is over. They don't have the squad depth. And then Nketiah comes in and he's like, what's up? You know, so I'll give him a 7 out of 10.
How many has he scored?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how many he scored.
Has he scored 6?
I think he might have scored more than Jesus now, actually. Yeah.
I think he has. Yeah, he scored more. I thought he was excellent today. I'd have given him an 8. Nketiah. I thought he was
that's fair. That's fair as well.
Really good. I thought he was really good today, Nketiah. I've got to say.
I can't believe how good he is.
Yeah, I know. Surprised me.
Surprised me as well. I mean, he was almost a rollback sort of beginning of the season. Almost written off by a lot of Arsenal fans. Weren't sure if he was going to sign a new contract. Piers Morgan, who's the founder of All Knowledge, wanted him gone. And here we are. He's looking great. Sorry, go on, Mark.
Can I just say also with Nketiah, I think for me, right, we all know that he isn't the player that Jesus is, but I think when it comes to goal scoring, this might be a crazy thing to say, but I think it's actually better. I think it's actually better because
I don't care what anyone says, and I've had this conversation. Jesus isn't a natural born goal scorer. He's still an inverted winger that can do a little bit of that 9, almost like a 9.5, really. Do you know what I mean?
He's a false 9, really.
Yeah, exactly. And Nketiah, his awareness, getting on to the end of things, expecting some mistake to happen is much better at that. Much better.
He was always like when he was growing up, he was always a fox in the box nearly. He was always get in there. He would always get them goals. And now he's just strengthening up and increasing the overall version of his game, but he's still got that ability to get into the right positions and get you goals.
Yeah, absolutely right. Right, final one. And of course, Will, as he's come on today as our Arsenal guest, and he hasn't been on for a little while. I'm going to give him Rashford and Saka. Probably difficult one. Rashford probably one of our better players. A little bit sloppy at times today. Obviously got the goal, but then Saka absolutely wonderful as well. But go on.
Yeah.
Saka, I'm going to say a 9 because I don't give 10s. Like, you're never perfect. You don't give 10s. But it's as close as you can do, causing trouble up and down, scoring that wonder goal in which I literally ran around nearly my whole house shaking. It was unbelievable. Just like him and Zinchenko were like joint man in the matches for me. Like the amount of trouble he causes game after game. He's such a big game player. It was amazing. Rashford was probably your most influential player, your most dangerous player. I'd give him no less than a 7, honestly. I'd say somewhere between a 7 and 8. I won't go as far as the 8. I'll go for a 7 just because I think there was a few stages where he did just get a little bit too sloppy, like he tried it a little too much rather than playing it simple.
Exactly that. He was a little bit sloppy today, and I think on a couple of occasions, if he hadn't been that way, we might have maybe got in to have another couple of chances there. There was one particular time in the first half, he was running at... it almost caught out the last man. Ramsdale came right out. It sort of missed everybody. And I felt like if he'd pounced on that, and there was one in the second half as well, tried to do a little bit too much, just take on the man, which we've seen in recent weeks, didn't at that point, and maybe we could have given ourselves a couple of opportunities there.
Yeah, but regardless, the one thing you will say is Jesus is looking very bright for English wingers between Saka and Rashford, because my God, they're both electric, and Southgate's an idiot for not starting both of them against France, as I said at the time.
I've got to say, Mark, when the second half one you're talking about, I would have made sure that Ramsdale brought me down. I would have made sure somehow Ramsdale brought me down. Now sometimes you got to buy a penalty. Sometimes you got to roll the dice and buy a penalty. And the way that Ramsdale, was it Tomiyasu? I think it was Tomiyasu and Ramsdale, wasn't it?
Yeah.
When you're in between them, you've got to be making sure you kind of you're falling over Ramsdale or something. You're doing something to try and win.
See, I don't know if the ref would have bought it though, because if you look at the chances, like the Fernandez one in the first half where he could have easily given it. There was another one when Rashford went through on Ramsdale and Gabriel mops up behind and he didn't give it a free there. He was letting it flow, so I can understand why he didn't try, because I feel like it wasn't that type of game by a refereeing standpoint.
Yep, absolutely right. I've seen
Got to pull the trigger though, Will. You got to pull the trigger and try. You got to pull the trigger and try.
Weghorst is trending at the moment, so I'm going to have a look at that later on today. I wonder why. Probably idiots on Twitter not knowing how to read and look at a fucking game of football. But there you go. Right, listen, guys, it's been wonderful having you all. Really, really good comments tonight. You boys have been absolutely fantastic. Please make sure to give all of these guys a follow. Really, really good lads and know exactly what they're talking about. Thanks very much, guys. Obviously, we'll have a preview coming up soon, maybe a couple other shows, and then what's your next game, Will?
Man City in the FA Cup
next Friday.
It doesn't get any easier.
Oh,
Spurs, Man United, Man City.
That would be like a little preliminary to your final game against them at some point. Obviously, whenever that is. We've got Reading. We've got Forest. We've got Forest next Wednesday in the first round,
and then Reading on the weekend,
and then Reading at the weekend, and then Forest again, and then we travel to. No, we got Palace.
Was it Palace then Barcelona?
Yeah, no. So Forest, Reading, Forest, Crystal Palace, Leeds United again. I don't know what's going on here. And then Barcelona. It must have been some postponed games back in the earlier of the season. Obviously, Palace.
Your game.
We missed out on Leeds, I think, so that's why we're playing them twice within 4 days. But a lot of teams are having that at the moment. Anyway, thanks to everyone in the comments that said take care to you as well, buddy. And thanks so much, guys from Heady. Really appreciate that. But we'll see you next time.